We're ready to get started, right? So I hope you're all here to talk about managing vSphere upgrades and deployments, right? We're going to walk through all of the agenda and go ahead and get started. So we'll go ahead with a disclaimer, right? You've seen this a million times already. Essentially, we're under no commitment. Things might change. Just know that we tried to do our best to serve you and to have great, fantastic products that fit your needs, but things that we talk about here may change between now and delivery. So a little bit about me. My name's Brian Graff. I'm the Technical Marketing Manager for ESX Lifecycle and Power CLI. So host profiles, auto-deploy, update manager, all those things also tie into Power CLI and automation. You'll see a little bit of that in this session as well as our session following this 30 minutes after. And I'll let Salil introduce himself.
Hello, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming out. It's a post-lunch session, so I'm very happy to see so many of you showed up. My name is Salil. I work in the vSphere product management team. I've been at VMware a little over 10 years. I started out in the Esxi engineering and then sort of switched over to the dark side. And we're going to be talking to you about vSphere upgrades today. So let's go through the agenda and what we're covering. We'll be talking a little bit about the vSphere upgrade overview and what sort of that entails, and then go through the various parts that you need to sort of plan and execute on. Then we're going to cover a little bit about post-upgrade considerations, and then get into the interesting stuff, what's new, and where we are headed in terms of futures. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then round it off with a little bit of technical resources that you guys can use to make your life a little bit easier as you go out and plan your vSphere upgrade. So in case you missed it, VMware released vSphere 6. That's been getting rave reviews from bloggers, and we are expecting an update release to come out as well. That's going to be equally feature-rich and enhance the offering that we already have. Before I proceed, can I get a show of hands as to how many people are still on 5.0?
Couple.
How many people are on 5.1? Okay. And how many people on 5.5? Whoa.
Look at that. Very nice.
Any brave souls out here who are like already on 6?
How many are planned to move to 6 so far? Very nice.
Very nice.
That's why you're
Thank
here,
you.
right?
Thank you. So what's also happening is another important date is coming up. Can anybody tell me what this date is? Exactly. And this generally leads to conversations which are not so pleasant, which is how do I get to upgrade my environment and do it in a compressed time. And this generally extends outside of the normal major vSphere upgrade cycle as well, right? So we roll out patches, and you need to sort of update your Esxi inventory within a certain amount of time. And that can be something that you need to sort of plan for and take a different look at. So when I talk to customers, we hear this very often about, yeah, I don't find the vSphere upgrade that complex. So Esxi piece is not that complex as such, but it's very, very time consuming, and I wish I could sort of plan this out a little bit better and make some serious considerations given where my environment is. And the goal of our presentation today is to make you feel really, really confident as you guys walk out and go and upgrade to vSphere 6. So I can't get any cooler than a ninja cat on a fire-breathing unicorn, but hopefully you feel like that towards the end of the presentation. So,
do you want me to take over here?
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things that we're very cognizant of, right, as we talk with you, the customers, and it depends on the size of your environment, is that sometimes the amount of time it takes for you to go through your entire installation and upgrade, you might not even finish completely before it's time to go and upgrade to the next version of vSphere, right? We're very understanding of that, and so part of what we're going to talk about now is we're going to kind of walk through the steps and what should be upgraded first. Right? And then we'll have a few tips and tricks as far as things you can do now if you're bumping up to another version, but maybe not quite to 6 yet. So as we go through these, keep that in mind that we're phasing through here. So the first step is to upgrade your vCenter server, right? There was a
session yesterday.
Yeah, the session part 1 was yesterday. I hope a lot of you were able to attend that, and that was focusing on the vCenter server upgrade. What we're going to focus on today are phases 2, 3, and 4, right? So upgrading your ESX host, upgrading your virtual machines, and then any other post-upgrade considerations that you may have.
And just to call out the other session, I think there is a repeat tomorrow for those of you interested. There is a repeat that you can sort of attend. So upgrading ESXi, right? And this is, so we've upgraded your vCenter, you've taken care of your plugins, and now it's time to upgrade ESXi. And one of the things that, as I talk to customers, I often hear is like, is this the right approach for me? And as you start to plan out your ESX upgrades, there's several questions that I would encourage you guys to sort of ask yourself, depending on various environmental constraints that you might have. So how many hosts do you actually have in your environment? We have seen customers with few isolated islands of like 1 to 2 hosts in some remote site that they do not upgrade that often. And then we have also seen customers who have like to the order of 10,000 ESX hosts. So, and then they need to upgrade them, and it's a completely different approach that those customers take. So what's your sensitivity to downtime, right? So this is like some customers do not have shared storage. They do not care about VM uptime, and they're okay to take VM downtime in order to get through the ESX upgrades faster. Is that your environment? Does your business allow you to sort of do that? Maybe it's time for you to sort of consider DRS and other things, right? Maintenance window duration. So I think this is something that we touched on a little bit earlier. Depending on your size of your ESXi inventory, there is only so many hosts that you can sort of pack into a maintenance window. And how can you plan better around that? And so as you kind of ask yourself these questions, there are various considerations that you can sort of bake into your ESXi upgrade plan. There is the choice of the upgrade method, and we will go a little bit into what are those upgrade methods and where they apply best. You can talk about, you can think about using DRS and host profiles in case you are entitled to using host profiles, and that lends itself very well to the upgrade use cases, and we're going to cover some of that. And if you have VMs on shared storage and VM uptime is of a concern for you guys, then there are some nice cool things that we can do there as well. So before I go into a lot of, I think the clicker is giving me a little bit of a problem, but before I go into the various methods and where they sort of fit in and what's best for your environment, this question comes up a lot, and I would like to get a show of hands as to how many customers just do fresh install when they go to a major version, right? Okay, and this is what I expected. So, and a lot of that is when I sort of start to probe that conversation and have a conversation with the customer, a lot of that boils down to whenever an OS vendor releases a major new version, it is always deemed safe to sort of do a fresh install and not carry the old legacy cruft over. But I wanted to give you guys some confidence that, those concerns do not apply to ESXi. We take upgrade very, very seriously. And an upgraded box is completely equivalent to a fresh install box, right? And to walk you through the workflow, if you have, let's say, running a 5.5 box, the first step we do is to sort of save the configuration state and back it away in the memory. And the second question is, the second step is to actually replace the image content. So the ESXi VIBs on the boot bank are going to get replaced with the new version. And the third and fourth step is to apply the configuration. What would be interesting to note here is that at no point are we really touching the VMFS data store. So we're not repartitioning the VMFS data store. We're not touching your VMs. Your workloads are safe. So it's a relatively safe operation to do. And in case things do not work out for you for whatever reason, you can always roll back, right? So one other thing that I would like to point out at this slide, for those of you who do consider fresh install, is the fact that as you consider fresh install, think about the other pieces of products from VMware that you might be using in your environment, such as VROps or anything else that collects historical data. Every time you fresh install an ESXi node, you tend to lose historical information. So given that we really support upgrade and upgraded box is equivalent to a fresh install box, I would highly encourage that you guys consider upgrade when you come to the next release. There's some problem.
All right. So one of the things that we want to talk about is the fact that you have options, right? As you go through, you're looking at the different, you know what your end goal is. You want to upgrade your environment, right? What we're saying is you have plenty of options. Here you can use your Esxi Iso, right? You can use that to install upgrade. If you move on, you have VMware Update Manager. And VM Update Manager allows you to do more than just upgrade. You can patch, you can continue to use the UI. As of the 6.0 Update 1, Update Manager is fully integrated with the web client as far as utilization use. You still need the Windows box right now for Update Manager, but as far as using the C# client, that is no longer going to be necessary with Update 1. Another option you have is Auto Deploy, and we'll talk a little bit more about Auto Deploy and its features a little later on. We also can do scripted and Esxcli. So you have your options here. What's going to work best for you? That's your decision. We're going to focus on Update Manager and Auto Deploy here, though.
Yep. So now I would like to sort of, we're having some problems with the clicker and the screens, but I'll like to focus on some of these methods and talk a little bit about where each of these solutions apply and where you can sort of use them. So the Esxi Iso use case is something which all of you must be very familiar with. This is something that most of our customers have used for a very, very long time. This is generally applicable to environments which are very small in nature because you do not want to sort of have heavy-duty automation for very, very small environments, or in cases where you have remote environments and you cannot have automation over the WAN, or for some other reason you do not have physical access. So VUM is the second method, and this is something that is preferred by a large degree of our customers. It does not do installation of Esxi, but it does check all of the other boxes that are in there, and is definitely something that works across at a large scale as well. Auto deploy, for those of you who do have host profiles in their licensing SKU, host profiles is a great way to sort of have a centralized configuration story for your Esxi environment, and auto deploy is a great solution which simplifies and integrates your install, upgrade, and patch workflows. And this is great because now you do not have different workflows for different scenarios. And then you also have scripted. So in case for the initial deployments of Esxi, Kickstart has been around for a very, very long time. And that allows you to quickly get up and going and do the installation. And it also does upgrade, but there are some post-upgrade considerations with scripted. And the last but not the least is Esxcli. So this works very well in environments where you have air gap scenarios, and you literally need to take the patch bundle to the host and perform the patch operation. So rolling upgrades with VUM, and this has been around for a while, but this is like a great feature. I think almost everybody uses rolling upgrades with VUM. Can I get a show of hands as to how many people are doing DRS integrated upgrades?
Wow.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you. So this has been around for a while. For those of you who are not using this, I encourage you to use it. We have a lot of confidence in this feature. And as you can see, what this allows you to do is it allows you to perform a rolling upgrade of a cluster of Esxi hosts. And as you sort of power cycle through each of them, the VMs get evacuated, so the VMs suffer no downtime at all. And then you can sort of power cycle through your entire cluster and perform an upgrade of your entire cluster. The thing to note is that this requires DRS in case you want VM evacuations to happen. So you can check that. And in case you do not have DRS in your setup, I would encourage to even try this in eval mode and give it a try and use it, and might be something that you like. Okay, this clicker. Sorry, guys. Okay, you want to?
Yeah. Yeah, so one of the things I want to focus on is leveraging auto-deploy and host profiles. There's a number of reasons why auto-deploy and host profiles can be a great fit for you, and we'll cover those. But I want to talk a little bit about some of the use cases, right? So if you're going from a bare metal host, you can use, what are your options? We kind of walked through what the options were in a previous slide, as well as out-of-date hosts. How are we going to patch these? How are we going to upgrade these? Misconfigured hosts. How do you control that configuration drift, right? What do I have to do to stay on top of my hundreds or thousands of hosts to make sure that configuration stays the same across the environment? And then last but not least on here, rolling back a host. What if you decide for any reason that you need to roll back? Maybe it was just an update, maybe it's a full version. For whatever reasons in your environment, if you need to roll back, is there a way that you can do that quickly? Auto-deploy and host profiles covers every single one of those use cases, right? And we'll get into a little bit of how that works, as well as in the following session. That's what that session is focused on. So some of the benefits from this is that it's fast, as far as being able to associate different versions of ESX with which hosts or clusters you want them to be attached to. You can go in and set these rules very quickly and have a number of different rules and criteria to be able to say, these hosts in this cluster are going to have these features or this host profile. And the clusters over here may have different needs, different shared storage requirements. And so you can use those host profiles along with auto-deploy to be able to manage those at scale. And there's the plug, INF5123. So that's right after this, 30 minutes later. Do you want me to keep going, or do you want to take over?
I can take over this one. So one of the things that comes after upgrading Esxi, and I get asked this question a lot, which is how do I sort of upgrade my virtual machines? How do I upgrade VMware tools? Is it recommended? Is it mandatory? And to sort of go through that, I wanted to sort of first walk you through the VMware tools consumption workflow. One of the things that we have done over the years is like there's been a proliferation in the number of ways that you can sort of consume VMware tools, the number of ways that we sort of ship and package them. So I wanted to sort of do a quick recap with you guys and then sort of walk through that. So in terms of VMware tools, the first thing to sort of know is that they come pre-installed with every Esxi host. So traditionally, when you're upgrading tools, your VM is seeking out the copy of tools which are shipped on the ESX host, so, and that's where it's getting its latest tools from. And these tools can be upgraded using API, PowerShell, UI, you can right-click, you can automate this, and also using VUM. So a lot of people generally are unaware of the fact that VUM can also be used to upgrade VMware tools and virtual hardware. And there are predefined baselines which allow you to sort of do that. The second approach that we have, which is the OSP tools or the downloadable tools. So we've had this for a while as well, and this primarily applies to only Linux operating systems. And what this allows you to do is like take a separate downloadable package, which is hosted on the vmware.com site, and you can download that and use that with your internal scripting tools such as Yum or anything else that you have for different Linux variants, and then you can use that to sort of apply VMware tools. Last but not the least, the future of how VMware tools are going to sort of evolve over time at VMware is something that I would like to talk to you guys about. So we, at some point, I think 2 years or 3 years back, we decided to sort of upstream our tools into the Linux kernel mainline. And we did this because this would allow you to move away from managing the lifecycle of tools for your Linux guests. And what this does is that we have upstreamed both the driver space as well as the user space components onto the Linux kernel mainline. And all VMware tools, which is now called Open VMware Tools, comes pre-baked into all of these distros. So for Red Hat 7/12, Ubuntu 14, CoreOS, and our very own distribution, Photon, they're all running tools once you install them. And what this allows you to do is, as you update those operating system instances, when using whatever you use, right? You use Yum or you use Satellite or you use something else, those tools will also get updated because each of these OS vendors are going to ship an updated package of tools with their patches. So with that, let's move to virtual hardware and VM compatibility upgrade, right? So we are we started to call virtual hardware compatibility versions, somewhere in 5.1 in the web client, and it's available. One of the things that I would like to sort of talk about is you can obviously schedule this in the UI, but let me just, yeah. So you can also, like I said, you can upgrade this using VUM baselines, and that's like a big win. We have seen a lot of customers do this, and this is like not rollbackable. So this is something that you do after you upgrade your VMware tools. Let's talk a little bit about the support matrix. I think at VMware, we take supporting an operating system instance very, very seriously, and we spend a lot of effort to sort of make sure our support matrix goes a long way back. So as you can see, we have not dropped support for VMware tools for a long, long time from 4.0. So that means that tools from vSphere 4 can run on the latest ESX6. Tools from ESX6 can run all the way back on ESX5 or even 4 in case you have that in your inventory. So this allows you to have a great degree of portability in your environment with respect to tools and virtual hardware. And this really softens the blow as to when you have to actually upgrade your tools. So next comes the question as to what do I do when I actually have to upgrade tools? Is it really mandatory or optional? And I would like to answer that by just saying that it's recommended. Save yourself some time. Don't try to fall off the support matrix because it's going to be very, very hard to upgrade tools for thousands of virtual machines all at once if we were to actually drop an old version. So keep current as much as possible. And the reason why that is because we also ship a lot of feature functionality and security patches in the newer releases of tools. So it will be beneficial. So one of the things that I get asked about is, okay, so I need to upgrade tools. It's not mandatory, but I do not know what's shipping in the new release of tools and how do I go around updating them. So we are coming out with release notes for tools, which will clearly articulate what functionality has been baked into tools, so that you can use that as a trigger point for actually deciding whether this is one of those times that you're going to actually upgrade VMware tools or not. And one of the things that has been brought up in the past as well is that we have different types of tools. So we have tools from the host, we have tools, the OSP packages, and we have the OpenVM tools. And when you kind of go to the UI, you see things like third-party tools are not supported if you're using any of the latter two formats for VMware tools. So we've worked really hard to make sure that the versioning is consistent, and you can report a true version of VMware tools across your entire inventory of VMs with the next release of VMware tools. Use OpenVM tools wherever possible. So I just spoke to that briefly. This is where we are headed with Linux VMware tools, and this is sort of already available. So in case you're rolling out new Linux 7, RHEL 7 deployments, or any other top-of-the-tree Linux VMs, please give OpenVM tools a chance. It will really, really simplify your life cycle later. Cross-compatibility. So of course, we support a very wide matrix for VMware tools, and we just spoke about it. But here's a tip for most of you, right? So I've always found customers asking this question, can I actually go skip a version, right? So, and to illustrate that, think about the situation where you are going from 5.1 to 5.5, and now the question comes, I need to upgrade VMware tools. And what we are trying to say is, like, due to the compatibility matrix that we have, you can actually skip a version and go to VMware tools from version 6 or even the version after that. And if they're sort of supported, you can save a lot of time and save some cycles there. Hardware version and compatibility, we talked about this one. Upgrade is optional. There is a strict reboot requirement on this one, and it's not backwards compatible. So please upgrade VMware tools before you actually upgrade your virtual hardware. It will save you a lot of heartache. You want to take this one?
Keep going.
Okay, cool.
Go one more.
I take. So VMFS upgrade. So one of the things that customers forget about sometimes is upgrading their VMFS, and VMFS 5 was introduced a while back. So is anybody still running VMFS 3?
Or they're not saying they are.
Okay. So VMFS upgrade is like very simple. Just go to the UI. It's an online upgrade. You really don't have to you move off your VMs, evacuate your VMs. It's no downtime. It's literally a click of a button. And we really encourage people to sort of do that. And there are a few key differences between VMFS 3 and VMFS 5. And we can talk about that. But there are also differences between a freshly installed VMFS 5 data store versus an upgraded VMFS 5 data store. And depending on if block size really matters to you or partition format really matters to you, you can upgrade your VMFS or choose to create a new data store and create a new VMFS 5 volume on it. So when you decide to upgrade your VMFS volume, I think there are a few considerations that you need to keep in mind. If you have a shared LUN scenario wherein you have somebody who's accessing a VMFS 3 volume and you're trying to upgrade to VMFS, only do that once all the hosts have been upgraded. Don't rush to upgrade your VMFS volume before all those hosts have been upgraded, right? Because otherwise you're going to lose access to the shared volume. And just as a tip, for those of you who are still who haven't upgraded to VMFS 5, I would encourage you guys to sort of do that. We're going to have a new version coming out, which will possibly not support direct upgrade from VMFS 3. So keep current, and it will save you some heartache as well. Again, like I said, there is no undo in this. You should not do this every time you upgrade your ESX host. Do it only when all the hosts accessing shared volumes have been upgraded to the latest or the greatest version. And like I said, there are differences between an upgraded VMFS volume as well as a freshly installed one. So in case you do want to benefit from a better block size or a GPT partition format, you can always create a new data store. You can and then use storage vMotion to migrate your VMs. Try to schedule this in the non-peak hours because obviously this takes a toll on what your environment is looking like.
Yeah. All right, so one of the things that sometimes we forget as we're going through, there's a lot of things to upgrade in our environments. There's a lot of moving parts, right? We've already talked about, well, yesterday they talked about upgrading vCenter. Today we've talked about upgrading your ESX host and your VMs. Moving on to distributed switches, sometimes we forget that we need to do that as well, right? There are definitely reasons why we should go and move up to the latest version of the distributed switch, and that can be done as simple as right-clicking it and clicking upgrade. In this case, in this picture, we'd already upgraded it, so it's grayed out. But it's one of those things that you should definitely try to consider doing to making sure that you are up to speed or up to date across the board on your entire vSphere product line. So in summary, I want to talk about when you're attacking this, right? When you're trying to decide how you want to do your upgrade, you need to take this as more of a holistic view. All right, so you can't look at just your host. You can't look at just your VMs, and to some extent you will, as far as figuring out timing and dates and maintenance windows. But you need to look at this whole thing altogether as a virtual infrastructure, not as a specific piece. Other things, order is important. I think we've tried to stress that quite a bit here. Upgrade your tools before you upgrade your virtual hardware. Upgrade your vCenter first, upgrade your hosts after that, and so forth. Otherwise, you'll find yourself having some headaches that you can otherwise avoid by doing an order. Again, checking the ESX method that you want to use. We've posted 4 or 5 different ways that you can do that. Decide what's best in your environment. If you're already using auto-deploy, that's a great way to kick in upgrades. Not just use it for a specific version, but upgrade to the next version every time as well using Power CLI and Image Builder and the auto-deploy rules. Understand your virtual machine requirements. Choose what works for you. Like Salil said, if you're going from one version, say 5.0 to 5.5 and 6.0 is already out, check the compatibility. It may be worthwhile for you to move up to VM Tools 6.0 if it's backwards compatible to save you that extra time during your future refresh cycles. And don't forget about plugins, add-ons. Like we said, take it as a holistic view. So Salil, what's next?
Okay, so let's talk about what's next, right? So a lot of what we talked about is a fairly standard practice, and customers have been doing it for a while, but there is obviously scope for improvement. So sorry. So there's obviously scope for improvement. So we looked at what our customers were telling us as to serve as a measure to decide what we decide to do in the future. And the feedback was pretty clear, and I think there were 3 key points that I would like to sort of summarize. ESXi upgrades take too long to execute. It's just time-consuming exercise. Can we do something better? Why is Vim not integrated with the web client? I think this has been one of those pain points that a lot of you have talked about. And Vim is a Windows-only application still. Can we do something better there? Is anybody, fully onto the web client and is using the C# client only because of Vim? Okay, so we'll get to that as well. So one of the first things that we are doing in the next few releases is we took a look at what can we do to reduce the time that it takes for you guys to sort of upgrade a cluster of ESX hosts. And when we started to take a look at that, it was not about enabling more concurrent vMotions or anything like that, because we were saturating the network pipe all the way through, even with a fewer vMotions. So then we went back to the basics and started looking at the algorithm that we sort of have in place. And obviously, there were some inefficiencies that we could sort of clean up. And when we started looking at that, we made some improvements in vSphere 6. But as you can see, there are going to be drastic improvements in the host evacuation time in 6.0U1, which should ship sometime soon, this quarter or next quarter. And we believe that this is going to really be really beneficial for you guys. And to talk about some of that, we tested this out with our own internal IT team. As you can see, they clearly loved it. We did some tests with some customers as well. We have a very interesting customer. I just met them yesterday. They have 13,000 VMs per cluster. They're clearly blowing past all of our limits and whatever we are telling them every year. And it used to take them roughly 3 hours to evacuate a single host, which is just very painful. So we worked with them, and I think they're very happy with what they're sort of seeing in their environment. And we did some of our own tests, and in dense environments, depending on your power on to power off VM ratio or how your cluster is loaded, your mileage might vary. But we are seeing an average improvement of 4 to 7x. And then in some cases, when you have a lot of powered off VMs in your cluster, we are seeing improvements up to 27 to 30x. So something which used to take, let's say, 45 minutes is getting done under 2 minutes right now. And this should make its way out there. So for those of you who are still using the C# client, we really want you guys to move to the web client. And for that, we are introducing full support for Vim in the web client, and this is going to go out with the next release as well. About time, if I may. And this is a full functional feature parity with the experience that you have with the C# client today. So no more requirement for you to sort of split your time between 2 different clients. And we're going to have this shipping. And this is also available in the demo booth. So in case you go down to the vSphere operations management booth, there is a demo of this playing there. And then the last but not the least, Vim today, right? So even if for all of you who are trying to move to the appliance, one of the things that I keep hearing from customers is the fact that Vim is Windows only. It's a critical piece of my environment. If Vim is not going to move to the appliance, there is literally no point for me to sort of abandon Windows because it's working. It's Windows only. It requires a separate DB. its separate life cycle of its own, separate cert replacement, everything that sort of goes with it being a separate piece. So can I get a show of hands as to how many people are running the appliance but running Vim on Windows? Okay, cool. So I think you're going to be happy with this. We are well within working on this, and we are going to have Vim fully embedded with the VCSA in the next major release, or at least that's the direction that we are thinking about right now. And this is like a great move for all of you who have been looking at moving to the appliance. This should finally remove the last obstacle that we have heard of in terms of the move to the appliance. This means no Windows, no separate DB, no separate installation, patching, cert management. And also along the way, as we have been working to port this to from Windows to Linux, we have removed some dead code. We have made some performance improvements. So you should really, really consider moving to the appliance at this point on.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
So next year, by the way, I want to see everybody on the appliance, okay? So
yeah, if you come, you better be on the appliance. No. So let's talk about some of the technical resources that we've got, right? Where can I learn more? Where can I see some more best practices? Getting started with vSphere upgrades. Best place to go is the VMware Upgrade Center page. Okay? This is a great place to see the latest technical documentation. You can see the Upgrade Center of feature walkthroughs, which you can also get to from there. These are walkthroughs that have been created to show you step by step how it would look like and what you would do to go from your version up to the upgraded version. So definitely check out the feature walkthroughs. Other resources we have, definitely check out the Documentation Center. I know it's hard to read docs. I know we all hate doing it, and we all say we do, but I mean, really, do we? But this is a time that it's really important, being the base foundation of your vSphere infrastructure. It's a time that you should at least go through and look at the highlights. The compatibility guide, please look at that before you try and start upgrading. We hear some people that are trying to upgrade and they're having these pains, and it turns out that they're going from one version to another that they can't, or they're trying to go from, say 2.5 up all the way, and it was because they didn't check the compatibility guide. And obviously check the product interoperability matrix. So in closing, what we'll do here, we wanted to save some time to answer some questions. So we'll go through this closing slide, and then if you have questions for us, we'll fill the rest of that time up with questions. There's never been a better time to switch to upgrade or to vSphere 6. Update 1 is just around the corner. You've seen the features that are coming in Update 1, the speed increases as far as host evacuations go. It's the right time to do this. VCSA, obviously, it has full feature parity now with the Windows vCenter server. Definitely a time to look into switching and be able to get rid of another Windows machine and move to an appliance. And we would love to chat with you and get your feedback. So for those of you that are on Twitter or want to browse Twitter to talk with us, we're on there. Shoot us feedback, shoot us questions, and we'd be happy to talk. So thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
All right. For those of you that would like to stay for question and answer, please feel free to stay. If you want to move to the front, or stay in your seats, that's fine. We'll just open this up for discussion. Yes. Thank you. There we go. All right.
Yeah, so tech review is our way of saying this is what we are sort of working on without saying this is in the roadmap because yes.
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 Great. So the question was when when the Update 1 comes out with Update Manager, it will be part of the VCSA. So it's not something you can add into your current VCSA, but going forward, that's baked into the VCSA. Other questions? Sorry, let's.
There's maybe we should,
Maybe let's take seats and use the mics, if that's okay.
I'm sorry.
We'll go through. We saved about 20 minutes, so we have plenty of time to answer these questions. We know this is a very important topic, so let's go ahead over here and start.
My question is very simple. I wanted to know, I missed in my notes where Update 1 is coming out. Do you know when?
So I don't think we can announce the timelines, but it's relatively safe to say that it's around the corner, otherwise we won't be talking about it.
End of quarter, this quarter.
I said it's around the corner.
He's fishing for it right there. He's fishing for it.
Sorry, I got to turn the hearing aid up.
You did not hear that from me.
Okay, but definitely by the end of the year.
It's around the corner.
It's around the corner. Okay, gotcha.
Nice try.
Yeah.
What kind of extra considerations for upgrading an instance that's supporting a VDI platform?
So VDI poses some interesting challenges as to when you actually end up upgrading, and then Vue also has a different version of tools, and they have their different version of WDDM driver in there. So I think we didn't have this on this slide because we wanted to sort of keep the scope slightly different. But if I can provide you an KB offline, which we document the exact sequence in which you sort of upgrade the suite of our products, in which order do you go, when do you upgrade VC, when do you upgrade your Vue management server, when do you upgrade the rest of the stack, so we can work on that offline.
I can just search that.
Yeah, sure.
You, sir.
Is there a clean way to move from a Windows vCenter to a VCSA appliance?
So that is, as we decide to make Appliance the desired form factor for Virtual Center, there's definitely one of those things that we are considering. There was a talk around the VCSA appliance architecture, and that also, I'm told, this question came up. So this is definitely something that we are considering. There is a demo which is out there on the booth floor that you can go and see as well.
There's also a VMware Fling that does one upgrade to another, but it doesn't cover all the different topologies and working with an external database or an internal database. So it was a start for us to kind of fish and see what kind of traction that would get and what people really wanted, and things are being worked on. Like Sulu said, we can see it in the booth. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you so much for the session. My question is regarding the minor version changes on VMS version 5, 5.54, 5.56. Are there any gotchas? Are there any use cases where you would say, oh, if you're running this minor version, it may affect something?
Are you saying so ESX 5 update?
EMFS, your data store formatting?
Yeah, so the data, once you're on VMFS 5, other than the fact whether you decided to come from, did you upgrade your existing volumes?
It's a new data store.
Yeah, so I don't think there are...
5.0 gives you, I think, 5.54.
Yeah, so I think those smaller minor version changes represent bug fixes and minor enhancements, nothing that would...
affect functionality.
Nothing that would be considered net new functionality.
Thank you so much.
But as we look at the newer versions, they're obviously going to support different disk formats and things where the industry is moving. So, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a quick question about the update 1 with the integrated VUM piece. Currently, I have a bunch of different vCenter servers and one VUM attached to each one. Is there any possibility, or are there any thoughts about having a separate appliance but talking to many vCenter servers, or is it going to be the same model one-to-one?
So, we've obviously given it some thought, right? So, So first, let me go back to the first part of the question, which is the embedded VUM. So I think that on that, we are not giving any timeline, but we are obviously working. So I think I don't want people to read into that. But the other piece that you asked, which is a fairly valid question, it comes up every now and then, which is VUM and VC have a one-to-one mapping, and can that be made a little bit better? And when I've probed that conversation a little bit further, it has often boiled down to the fact that we really don't care about having one instance of VUM, essentially, but it's more about having baseline management across your vCenter environment. And that's something that we have looked at, and we are definitely considering. But it's too early to sort of speak about it at this point.
And one small quick question, is VRO getting an updated VUM plugin to take this into account?
So
You know?
we have talked to the VRO team. They recently just released the auto deploy plugin. And for VUM also, I believe they're working on getting it updated. But they've been a little bit behind the schedule on that one. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Regarding all this emphasis on tools, we have Linux and Windows. Linux is great with the OpenVM tools. Currently, not future looking, is there a way to use SCCM or WSUS to get our Windows tools to do the same thing?
currently, no. We are looking at working with our friends in Redmond to sort of make sure that we have a way. We did go to them. I think they do not want to sort of integrate some of the PV-SCSI drivers in their out-of-box image, and without that, it becomes kind of hard to sort of slipstream into SCCM or WSUS. But there are few ways, there are still few approaches that we are discussing with them, so maybe in a future time.
Thank you.
Another one related for the VM tools, I think I heard you say it, but I could take VM tools 6 or 6.0 U1 and run it on my 5.1 ESX host.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. That'll make the upgrade, the later on upgrade, easier.
Right,
Yes.
and that's what we see with a lot of people. And like I said at the beginning of the session, a lot of people, they're taking the entire year or 18 months to upgrade everything in their environment, right, with the holistic approach, and just in time to start all over again, right? And so we're saying, you know, hey, if you're planning on doing that, if you foresee that happening, you know, go ahead and use the latest if it's compatible, which in this case it is, and do that so you only have to do it once.
Thank you.
I actually have two questions. The first one is about rollback. You said with VUM there is no rollback after patching or upgrading. Can you still do a Shift plus R from the DC UI to go
You
to...
can. So when I made that slide, my intention was there is no integrated rollback, and when you have a pretty big, large environment, it's kind of painful to sort of go to each console and do a rollback. Auto deploy, on the other hand, it's a matter of changing the rule and rebooting the host, and you sort of go back in time. And that's a very helpful thing in case you do run into a bug and are awaiting a fix from CPD or troubleshooting with GSS. You can sort of go back and sort of keep your operations running after collecting the logs. Yeah.
Okay. My next question is about distributed switch upgrades. Currently in 5.5, if you want to enable enhanced mode like LACP, it's a separate step. My two questions on that. Is that a disruptive step to the vSwitch? And has that separate step been eliminated when upgrading a 5.5 to a 6.0 vSwitch?
So I think let me take the second part, because I mean I will have to get you connected to somebody on the networking team about the LACP activation. I'm going to refrain from commenting on that one. But the part about where it's been eliminated as a separate step, yes, I think in 6.0 it should be just upgrade the DVS from the UI.
Okay, good. Thank you.
That should bring the capability in the switch.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about upgrading VMware tools and upgrading the virtual machine hardware on Windows and Linux. For Linux, do we still need to make sure the VMware tools is upgraded, like through Yum or whatever, before we do a virtual machine hardware upgrade?
Yes. So it's always recommended, and actually I would go so far to say that it is the only way to actually do things. So definitely upgrade your VMware tools version to at least the virtual hardware version or beyond, essentially because they carry driver updates. And if you upgrade your virtual hardware version prior, what could possibly happen is that the newer virtual hardware version has support for a certain kind of device which VMware tools does not support. So the device may not come up or cause problems. So it is definitely recommended that you first upgrade your tools and then do the virtual hardware.
Okay, in the GUI it says that it's just a third-party tools. Is there a way that I can find out and validate that the tools have been upgraded before I upgrade the virtual?
Yeah, so I think that was the point that I was alluding to, that if you're using guest managed tools, something like an OSP package or OpenVM tools, in the UI or using the API, when you sort of query for what version of tools you're running, it does not give you any useful information, or gives you a garbled, very long number, which does not really mean anything. So with the next release that we are working on, you should be able to see a consistent version across the different kinds of tools, and that should be able to help you with your use case.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, sir.
Question regarding the roadmap of Virtual Center Appliance, right? I know the vCenter Appliance is catching up with the Windows. What is the VMware's vision in terms of vCenter Appliance? And are you pushing customer or giving a preference about vCenter Appliance over the Windows Appliance? Or from customer perspective, should I stay on Windows side, or I'm planning to stay on a vCenter Appliance?
So let me put this the way I can without like blowing past some of the stuff that legal told us. But I think if you really want to sort of future-proof your investments, it is highly encouraged to give the appliance serious consideration. Definitely with vSphere 6, we have addressed a lot of the scale and performance concerns. In fact, just yesterday, if you go to the VMware performance blog, we have published numbers which show the vSphere 6 vCenter performance relative to 5.5, and also show the performance of the VC appliance relative to Windows. And just in terms of performance, the appliance seems to be doing a lot better. And some of that results from the fact that the database is sort of co-located with the VPXD server itself. So we are seeing very encouraging results. And we would like to make appliance definitely the preferred form factor for customers. And we're making the requisite investments to make sure that that happens.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any last questions before we wrap up? All right. The question was, are we looking to move to HTML5 on the web client? I will say that we released a VMware Fling just a couple weeks ago called the ESXi Embedded Host Client, and that is full HTML5 that you can install. It's like a 200 kilobyte VIB for your ESX hosts that allows you to get on and manage those hosts without needing the C# client. So we can't really comment on futures for that, but I think that you can see the progress that we're making with single hosts, and we do want to have a performant web client. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.